Hey there, and welcome to my educational research wrap-up. I'm going to try to summarize the most important parts of what I learned this very quick summer semester. So the agenda for this presentation is why does research matter, specifically in the educational setting, the basic process of research, some basic principles, specifically about ethics, quantitative research, characteristics of that, characteristics of qualitative research, and some of the similarities and differences. So, research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. I like this quote because it makes it seem more fun, because there is a lot of hard work of getting research set up, but then it can be fun when you discover new things. So there's just some of the reasons why I think educational research matters. It helps teachers, administrators, and other stakeholders make better decisions. It tests and improves various teaching methods and educational tools. It documents phenomena happening in educational settings. It develops the creativity, critical thinking skills, and agency of teachers who engage in it. It uncovers new knowledge and better ideas, and it can potentially protect vulnerable populations. So, the goal of research is to try and answer a question or questions or better understand a situation that is relevant in an educational setting. This is a basic research process. It works for both qualitative and quantitative. You pose a problem, question, or situation that is of interest. You do either a literature review or background research on that problem because you want to figure out maybe someone's already answered that problem or that question, or maybe there's been similar studies, so you want to find that out. Then you are going to plan and gather your data. This is where qualitative and quantitative kind of diverge. For quantitative, you are going to analyze the data using math and statistics. For qualitative, you are going to interpret the data and then draw conclusions and share the information. So some of the principles of doing ethical research, this is with human subjects. So there's been a lot of abuse, and so now they're really trying to protect people. You want to have respect for the people involved. That means they should be educated appropriately about what the study is about and be able to give consent and know that they can drop out anytime they want without any repercussions. Beneficence means that the study is based on promoting well-being of the subjects. And if you can't promote well-being, at the very least, protecting them from harm. And then justice. That's mostly about how in the past, vulnerable populations have been used. They bared the burdens of studies, but then the benefits have gone to more affluent populations, which is not fair. Here are some of the principles of good research. It should be ethically produced, which is what we just covered, protecting your subjects. The more transparency, the better. So that means you're clear about your different methods, and especially if maybe you get results you didn't expect, you're upfront about that. Especially for quantitative studies, they should be reproducible. You want to report them with clarity, very specific and with clarity so people can understand what happened. And then in an educational setting, you really want the study to be useful or purposeful in some way. So we're getting to quantitative, which I think of as the more nerdy of the two. In fact, the world needs more nerds. So I am not a huge fan of quantitative, which is why there's a little sad face there. The characteristics are, it's a positivistic framework. That means it's looking for what objective truths. It attempts to answer specific questions. The literature review covers similar studies. It uses instruments such as surveys to collect data. It uses statistical methods to analyze the data. The researchers attempt to be objective. It's usually written in the third person. It uses a particular format, and I think it's boring, but that's subjective. So this quote I thought worked well for quantitative data, and in research is what I'm doing when I don't know what I'm doing. And that's because qualitative data, you go in with not exactly knowing the question, and you just immerse yourself in the situation, and the questions kind of emerge. It's a more open-ended form. So qualitative is what I like best. You can see the little happy faces. It uses varying frameworks from interpretative to positivist. It attempts to explore and understand a particular phenomenon. The lit review generally helps define the terms of the phenomenon and population being studied. The data collection is much more creative and it can include conversations, drawings, observations. It uses codes and themes to interpret the data. Researchers are very transparent about their subjective opinions, and they're reflective about where they're coming from. As I mentioned, it's a more open-ended format, and I think it's a more interesting format because it basically tells a story. So validation, there's some things in common with validation between qualitative and quantitative, and some things that are different. They both can benefit from correct sample size, using the correct methodology, avoiding bias in study designs, and using as much transparency as possible. For quantitative, random sampling is more important, and you want to use correct statistical analysis, and you want the researcher to be as objective as possible. With qualitative, it's important to pick the correct participants, take really detailed notes, have the researcher be reflective on their own place in the data, and then you want to be out there a long time so you get all the data you need, and then you want to check findings with other subjects. So I like this quote because it is about both qualitative and quantitative. So the power of statistics and the clean lines of quantitative research appealed to me, but I fell in love with the richness and depth of qualitative research. So that is from Brene Brown, a really famous author and social scientist. So here's kind of a wrap-up of the differences between quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is closed-ended questions and multiple choice. Qualitative is more open-ended. The focus of quantitative is testing a hypothesis, solving a problem. And qualitative is exploring phenomenon, communities, ideas. For the point of view, quantitative is trying to be objective. Qualitative admits that they're subjective. The sample size is a big difference. For quantitative, it's larger the better. For qualitative, it's generally small. For data collection, quantitative uses fixed instruments, where qualitative uses interviews, open-ended, and more creative data collection forms. For the data work, quantitative is statistically analyzed using math. For qualitative, it's interpreted. Validation, quantitative, that's going to be more about the math and the study design. For qualitative, it's more about the trustworthiness. And as far as reporting, generally a quantitative story or research study is going to have a lot of data, numbers, charts, graphs, where a qualitative study is going to have more images and narration, text. So I wanted to emphasize this because as a teacher, I'll be doing action research, which is in the field. You're actually learning from your students with little studies that you design, and then you're putting it right into action. So no research without action, no action without research. All right, thank you for watching my presentation if you got this far. Sorry for the low filming quality, but I did the best I could.